What's up, ladies and gents? So this video, deadlifting, the basic technique. We're not going to get into anything too complicated here. What I'm going to teach you is the absolute basics of how to set up and how to execute the teaching cues you need to think about as you do it. Now, it's really important to remember on something like a deadlift or squats is that there are going to be variations individually depending on how long your legs are, how long your torso is, how long your arms are. So this is a basic setup to say, right, get going, and then you'll be able to adjust over time in order to make sure the lift is right for you. The key with the big heavy lifts, things like squats and deadlifts, is about efficiency. It's not like bodybuilding movements where you're trying to create inefficiency. You're trying to make the muscle work as hard as possible for a particular weight or particular load. When you're doing bigger lifts like squats and deadlifts, you want to be efficient. You want to travel in straight lines. So this is what we're going to try and master today. Generally, when cueing, try to work from the ground up. This is what I find is the easiest way to remember things, is sequencing from the ground up. So we're going to start with foot position. Foot width. Easiest way to think about a conventional deadlift is I like to use a jump landing as my estimate for where my feet should be. So if you jump up in the air and just see where your feet naturally land, that's generally going to be your most efficient, stable, safe position, okay? So once we've got that position, which is about hip width apart from me, we're going to walk up to the bar. Now what we want to do, as we're looking down onto it, we want to position the bar above the middle of the foot, okay? It's sitting above mid-foot. That means it's going to be maybe 1 to 2 inches away from my shins. It does not need to be grinding up the shins like a lot of people say it is, especially if when you're doing that, you'll find that you drive your knees over the bar and it's going to create a little bit of inefficiency. So 1 inch away from your shins is absolutely fine. As we sit down into it, obviously you can see my shins are going to push forwards anyway. So don't set yourself up pushed right against the bar. Now, the next part of our body that we need to look at is our knees. Now, we're going to have to push our knees out. We're going to try and separate the knees as we lift the bar to get the hips working properly. This means our hands need to be just outside the knees in order to get that position. They don't come right in there, because if they're there, they're going to hit my elbow, and it's going to cause, again, an obstruction for me to get this bar up. So we're going to sit them just outside, this position here. Then, from this position, we want to think about our shoulders next. We've done the feet, we've done the knees, we've done the hands. We want to try to push our shoulders, our shoulder blades, down into the back pockets. Imagine you've got pockets in your jeans and you're trying to slide your shoulder blades down into that. What that's going to do is help you gather some tension through the back. It's also going to help you sit into that movement just a little bit. I'm trying to slide my shoulders down. Now, once we have that position, you want to keep your eyes generally, for me, I like a couple of meters in front of me on the floor rather than bolt upright like that. I'm not a huge fan of that, but a few meters in front of you tends to be about right. Once we have that position, we've slid the shoulder blades into the back pocket, we push our knees out and then try to push the floor away from you like so. Bam. Okay, locking up in a straight line. As we go back down, we push our bum back, we break from the hips, slide the bar down the body and sit back down into it. This position, we reset, take a breath, big deep breath in, push the floor away from you, lock out, back down, reset, take your breath, okay? So again, the teaching points. Feet about hip width apart, find your level of comfort. Bar 1 inch away from the body. Hands just outside the knees with enough space to push the knees out. Then push your shoulder blades down into your back pockets. That will allow you to push your butt down, get some tension through the back. Eye gaze forwards, take a big deep breath in, and then stand by pushing the floor away from you with your feet. Don't think about pulling up, try to push the floor away, okay? So we'll do 3 reps like that. Bar above midfoot, hands just outside the legs, push the shoulder blades down into the back pockets, eye gaze forwards, push the knees out, stand by pushing the floor away from you, and then back down, push the hips back, slide the bar, sit into it. Take a breath. Take a breath. Like so. Now obviously the heavier you've got on the bar, you're going to want to hold that breath in. If you have a lighter bar, you can breathe out at the top, breathe back in on the way down. Depends. General rule, practice as though you're going to go as heavy as possible. So take that breath in, learn to gather some tension in your abdomen, okay? Now, other option we have for deadlift, which is largely the same setup, Sumo. Sumo, you will see where people go much wider with their stance. Again, the width of that stance is going to be pretty much dependent on how long your legs are, how good a flexibility you have. If you don't have great flexibility, you're going to want to go narrower. Okay, so play around with this stance. Now, the difference with this stance, we'll start with foot position. Put your foot position as wide as you feel comfortable. The key is, where possible, to try to make sure at the bottom The leg is vertical. We're in a vertical position. That's going to be our stronger position. Because if your legs are too wide, it's not quite vertical, you're actually going to lose a little bit of force on the way up. So find a comfortable spot. We've turned our feet out, and what this means now is that we can get right up to the bar because the knees are going to be traveling that way, not that way. So we can get right up to the bar. In this position, we're going to take our grip this time inside our legs. Again, try to go vertical with the hands. Don't go out wider like that. Go vertical because then there's a lesser range of motion for the bar to travel through. We have our grip nice and strong, feet turned out, knees pushed out. We drive the knees out, eyes forwards, push the shoulder blades down into the back pockets, and then push the floor away. Like so. Then again, push in the butt back, slide the bar down the thighs, and then sit back into it. Reset your breath. Every single time. And again, just cue it from the bottom upwards. Foot position, knees out, shoulder blades down into the back pockets, eye gaze forwards, push the floor away from you, like so. Okay? So that is the conventional and sumo deadlift. What you will find, if you have good mobility, the ability to do it, the sumo deadlift actually takes a little bit of strain off your back. So for those of you sometimes with maybe longer torsos or find that you can't get deep enough on a deadlift to make it feel comfortable, you're pulling a lot with your hips rather than a fairly even pull and push movement, you can opt for something like a sumo. It's a limited range of motion. It puts a little bit less stress on the back. But try both of them. Get good at both of them. Variation is going to help you out. Don't be afraid to go heavy, but be progressive. Don't just go straight in and lose your form. Master your technique. Build it up a little bit at a time. Now, I've given you the absolute basics here of deadlifting and sumo deadlifting, conventional and sumo deadlifting, for you to get started with. Remember those cues. Feet shoulder width apart, bar above midfoot. Push your knees out against your arms. Arms vertical outside the hips on the conventional. Push the shoulder blades down into the back pockets, then push the floor away from you. On the sumo, wider stance, find your point of comfort. We want that lower half of your leg vertical. Again, pull the shoulder blades down into the back pockets, arms vertical, take a breath, push the floor away from you. When you're disengaging from both lifts, push the hips back and allow the bar to start to settle down. Now, if you want a far more in detail version of deadlifting, squatting, someone I advise you all follow is Seb Oreb, the Australian strength coach, easily the best in the world at this currently. So get over there, check his stuff out, way more in depth. What I'm doing here is just giving you a basic setup to move forwards with. There's a lot more to it. There are a lot more variations, there are a lot more tweaks you can use to get much, much better at any given lift. He's a great resource for that. So this is your deadlift and sumo deadlift. Enjoy.